Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Moms Like Me podcast powered by Support Now. I'm so thrilled to have this conversation today with our guest, Andria Parks. Y'all, she is amazing. In addition to working for this phenomenal company, which we'll get to in a bit, she is also a cancer mom who so eloquently described her own situation and what drove her to the company that she works for now. And as she was describing her story, I thought, gosh, this needs to be on a podcast. This needs to be captured. Her daughter's journey is really tremendous. There's kind of two waves to the cancer journey, which is not something that I've run across very often. And so, Andria, I just want to first say thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Of course. So, as we've discussed offline, Andria, part of the goal of this podcast is if we can even reach just one mom that needs to hear a story, that needs to hear this moment of hope, we hope that we can accomplish that through this conversation. So I would love for you to start by sharing kind of what happened, because from what I understood from conversations we've had is that everything was very normal for a very long time until it wasn't. So if you don't mind telling a little bit more about that story, I'd love to hear it.
Of course. So good morning, everyone. So yes, my name is Andria. I'm the proud mom of a 2-time cancer survivor. And everything was normal. I'll take you back to December 2019. My daughter was 13 years old, and we were just getting ready for the holidays. And she was practicing for her ballet performances and starting experiencing a really sharp pain in her lower left abdomen, and we weren't sure what that was. And it just intensified, and took her to the pediatrician. From there, we went to the ER, and we had multiple visits to the ER. 4 ER visits later, we heard the words that no parent should hear. And the doctor said, there's a mass. It's large. It's wedged behind her left kidney and does not look operable. It's touching multiple organs. And at that point, my mind was just going to the 30 years that I had been in pharma, listening to words that I had heard before, that in another context, in a work context, and trying to rationalize what the doctor was telling us. And a few days later, there was a biopsy taken. There was a stent inserted in her left ureter just to help the urine from her kidney go down and out of her body. That's what was causing the pain. The tumor was wrapped around the kidney. And from there, everything just happened so quickly. She had a surgery on the 31st of December to have a port inserted in her chest. And then chemotherapy started that same night. I remember looking out of her hospital room window and seeing the Biltmore Hotel, which is just a few blocks away, exploding in these beautiful fireworks while my child was on her hospital bed receiving her first chemo. And it was rough. It was rough. The weeks after that were really rough, experiencing so many things. We don't have family here. We live in Miami, Florida. We don't have a lot of family here. So our community was our family. Our school community wrapped us around in their arms. Our parish community did too. And we were not alone. It was quite overwhelming, to tell you the truth. It was so much love and outpour just to keep us afloat.
Yeah.
And we spent many weeks in the hospital. The type of cancer my daughter was diagnosed with is known as rhabdomyosarcoma. It was in an advanced stage, and the chemotherapy that she was given was also very aggressive. She received 54 weeks of chemotherapy. We suffered all of the side effects that come with that, all the ups and downs, many weeks hospitalized. And we were praying, my goodness, she's in 8th grade. Will she make it to graduation? And there was a different plan. God sent COVID over and stopped the world. So I say that with a smile on my face. I know COVID was very hard on many. For us, it was a silver lining. Alexandra was able to attend school from her hospital bed. And also, she did wonderful. She graduated with honors. And it was the resilience these children have when they go through all of this, and the questions they have, so mature, because they mature very quickly when they go through this process. So with that said, her chemo was so aggressive that by the second week in January, she already started losing her hair, to
Mm.
which my resilient child said, enough, take it off. I don't like it all over my hair, all over my pillow. So she gracefully sang to Lady Gaga's song as my husband was shaving off her hair, and she was thrilled watching it fall on the floor because it was no longer going to be on her face or on her pillow. And shortly after that head shaving, she proudly had a fashion show of beanies. She had received so many, so she one by one she would try them on and say, "Does this look good?"
Aw.
As a good 13-year-old. So yes, that's part of it's so real, it's so raw to see them go through this, and at the same time, see her come up with a smile and say, "I can do this."
Andrea, one of the things that I'm thinking about as you're talking, so many of the cancer moms I get to meet, they have children that are much younger. And that doesn't make it any harder or less challenging. It just means it's different. And what I'm thinking through is what it's like to have a teenager whose thoughts are a little bit more developed. How challenging was it to answer her questions? What was your approach with her, knowing that she very well understood what was happening? At 13 years old, you've heard the word cancer, it's not a good thing. So how did you handle that? What was your approach with her?
Well, we had a blessing in the hospital. We had a child specialist that guided us through the process. So I will always and eternally gratitude to Danielle. She sat with Alexandra and said, "Mom, we can't wait too long. We need to do this now." And this was between Christmas and December 31st that they had their conversation. I remember her coming into the room, and Alexandra loves her. So she sat on her bed and said, "Alexandra, I want to talk to you about what's going on in your body." First of all, we were very well aware that she knew exactly what floor of the hospital she was in because we were taken to the 6th floor of the hospital, and it's known as 6th Tower. It's known as the oncology floor. So she knew very well where she was. And Danielle said, "Alexandra, what you have has a name, and I want you to help me pronounce it. It's cancer. Can you say that?" And she looked at Danielle and said, "I have cancer?" "Yes, you do." But at the same time, her oncologist came in and he said, "Yes, you do. It's treatable. And we're going to work on this as a team." So she understood that. She took it gracefully. She
Mm.
cried a little bit, but then she said, "Let's do this." She's just so resilient. She just said, "All right, let's do this. Let's move forward." And that's what it was. She was a bit fearful of going into surgery for her port, but then she said, "That was a piece of cake. It was so easy. It doesn't hurt. Let's do this." And
Well,
she surrounded herself with her friends as well, which they were wonderful. They would come in and out of the hospital to visit her and talk to her and cheer her on.
so Andrea, during that time, you had another child, you were working. How did you live? Like, how did you function? I mean, again, some of the things that I think is often missed when we tell these stories is that there is a very, very real day to day that you still have to get through. It's easy to kind of tell the story when it's in the rearview mirror, but how did you actually handle the day to day realities of not just being a mom of a teenager with cancer, but also having another child and being a professional?
That was really rough, and especially around the holidays when you receive all of these news. And I called my I called my boss and I let him know. I said, "Charlie, this just happened. I am overwhelmed. I I'm not sure how I'm going to approach this. I don't know what's coming next. I just need you to know." And Charlie had lost his wife to cancer, so he knew all too well what I was going through.
Mm.
And he said, "Take the time you need. We will work this out." And I try to keep everything as normal as possible for the family, especially for our younger one, for Andres, who's just 2.5 years younger than his sister, and try to explain in simple words Your sister's going to be in the hospital for many weeks and months, in and out. I explained and I told him what the word cancer meant and what she had. I was straightforward with him, but at the same time comforting. And it was hard, but I tried to balance the real world and try to keep things as normal as possible, which meant I was working from home. I would go into the office the days that Alexandra was home recovering from chemo. I would go into the office for a few hours and try to keep my head normalized. But I would come home immediately, shorter days, and do what I needed to do from home while she was sleeping. So it helped me keep a balance. It also helped my husband keep a balance as well and keep the hours that I was away. He would be with the kids. The hours that he was away, I'd be with the kids and not at the office. And just having that support from Charlie, my boss, was amazing. And
Yeah,
then COVID.
invaluable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like he was just so understanding, so human about the situation,
Really.
not giving you days, taking the time that you need and actually meaning it. Because I think a lot of times people say things and then there's a subtle pressure that then comes about at some point. So I want to go back to what you said about Alexandra's chemo. So how many weeks was it? 50 something?
54. 54.
54 weeks of chemo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rough.
I mean, rough. And you're saying that she experienced every side effect. She still remained, hopeful, optimistic. And tell us more about when you got the news that the cancer was gone and kind of like what shifted and what changed. Because again, obviously there's a second half to this story, but tell us tell us a little bit more about that moment.
So Alexandra's cancer, rhabdomyosarcoma, responded very, very well to treatment. She was put on a clinical trial. I remember, and I need to take this a little further back. So when I sat with her doctor for the first time, figuring out, well, what are the next steps? We understand there's a mass. And he started telling me, well, these are the different options. And I stopped him right there and I said, this is overwhelming. He had this beautiful picture on his desk of him with this beautiful girl, and it had a name, my daughter's same name. And I said, if this were your Alexandra, how would you treat her? And he stopped and he looked at me and immediately pulled open a file and he said, we're putting her on a clinical trial. This looks very successful for her specific type of cancer. And I said, let's do it. I'm in your hands right now. Let's move forward. So with that said, she responded very positively to her treatment. By the 4th month, the tumor had responded so well that it shrunk. It was inoperable. It was touching too many organs, and that allowed the reduction of the tumor by chemotherapy, enabled radiation to start. So she also responded very well to radiation. Mind you, there are many side effects, and just because it responded doesn't mean you shorten treatment. You need to complete the treatment to ensure the cancer doesn't come back.
Got it.
So yes, she had many side effects. As the body continues to receive chemotherapy, you develop other things, such as Alexandra was a ballerina. She was on her point shoes. She loved dancing ballet so gracefully. And chemotherapy caused neuropathic damage, meaning damage to your nerves, specifically on her feet. So she no longer can dance ballet. She has no sensitivity on her toes, even now, which we're 31 months after she concluded treatment. But into her treatment, and I want to be very specific about that, it's not, you'll have all of these side effects. They build up on you. I'll remember this one time, this was October 2020. She was not doing well, and I was wrapping up a conference call that day, the last conference call of this virtual world we were in, and I heard, Mommy! In a fraction of a second, I was in her room and catching her off as she was falling off her toilet. And side effects caused intestinal bleeding. And that was a really rough day. I remember getting to the hospital in a matter of minutes. We lived very close by. It was faster to get there in our car than it was to call an ambulance. And we got there and I was with her alone because COVID times only one parent can go in. So I was with her, embracing her. I was holding her with my arms underneath her little frail body because she was very thin. She had lost a lot of weight. She had lost a lot of blood. And the team did amazing things for her. I won't go into a lot of detail because it may be too graphic, but those were the longest 24 hours I've experienced in my life, and not having my husband next to me to support me was really
Mm.
rough. But I held on to my faith. Held on really tight to prayer, and she made it. She came through. She
Yeah.
had the most beautiful smile and resilient face the day after.
Mm.
Our priest from our parish came over immediately the next day because she specifically asked to see him. So with that said, she pulled through in the most amazing of ways. So yes, the tumor shrank. Yes, she responded well to chemo. Yes, she responded well to radiation. We had to complete therapy, which happened the next year. So in 2021, early in the year, she completed her treatment. Very thin, very frail, no hair, and she pulled through.
I mean, just unbelievable. And again, I think it shows that the like the ebbs and flows that these things, especially when you're going through cancer treatment, it's not linear. There are multiple, sadly, opportunities for setbacks. So any day that you're just pushing forward is a good day. And to your point, these side effects, the consequences can kind of pop up, and they can, sadly, they can compound in ways that you can't yet see. And then one day it becomes a problem that now you're aware of. I mean, it sounds so terrifying
That's
and so remarkable that she was able to pull through in that moment. And it sounds like, I mean, to me, I hear that, I think, gosh, she survived that. That must have given her so much confidence that she could get through and pull through the rest of her treatments, because it was almost like she was pushed to the brink. I mean, is that a misinterpretation of how she
no,
approached it, or does that
you're
feel right?
spot on, spot on. And you mentioned, well, how did I handle her brother? Little one was amazing at his response because he came into the room as I was catching his
Hmm.
sister all, and he saw everything. And
Oh,
he immediately got her hospital bag, packed everything, got my purse, my ID. As I was holding the phone on my shoulder, between my ear and my shoulder, and holding his sister, he said, "Mommy, I've got you. I've got everything you need. Where's your purse?" And he goes like, "Don't worry. Don't think about that. I got it for you." 9 years old.
wow.
Wow.
Wow. Oh,
Wow.
gosh. So
So
Andrea, she pulls through this major emergency episode. She gets through treatment. You go home. How long is she cancer free before? Yeah, and I want you to tell the story of because I think it's an incredible example of how we know our bodies better than anybody else. But talk to me about that timeline.
absolutely. So she rang the bell, and we were 6 months. I say we because it impacts the family. It impacts all of us. That was the happiest day of our life. She rang the bell at the hospital, and we went to mass to celebrate that, and had a beautiful mass and enjoyed with our friends. 6 months into this, we were decided to take a road trip for Thanksgiving and spend Thanksgiving in Savannah, Georgia. We went with some very close friends that are our family here, and we had a wonderful Thanksgiving, enjoyed thoroughly. And the next day, we decided, all right, it's time. Let's pack our bags, and we'll slowly but surely take our road trip back to Miami. And I found Alexandra in her room crying. And I said, "Honey, what's wrong?" And she paused and looked at me and said, "Mommy, it's back." I said, "Come again? What?" "Mommy, it's back." I said, "No, honey. No, 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 no. It's not back. You know, we've been on this road trip. We've been eating all sorts of stuff and been late hours up and doing all sorts of stuff. You're tired." "No, Mommy, it's back. Call Dr. D." I cannot explain what I felt at that moment. I immediately texted her doc and said, "Dr. D, Alexandra says it's back." This was a Friday. He said, "Bring her in first thing Monday." And we did. And she had a series of MRIs and CAT scans, and it was back. The doctor called my husband and I. We went into his office, and he says, it is back. She's so attuned with her body. It's in the pancreas. When he said pancreas, my heart stopped. I couldn't think. I said, "Oh my goodness." He said, "Yep, And it seems like there are 2 more nodules taken. We need a plan for surgery. This was December 8th.
No.
The second consultation was December 8th. And he said we were getting ready to travel to visit my parents in Ecuador. They live abroad, since they mentioned we don't have family here. And I had to change our plans. We stayed local, celebrated Christmas and New Year's, and January 4th, she had surgery. A surgery that was supposed to last 2 or 3 hours ended up being about 13 hours. They were the longest 13 hours of our lives. We prayed so much during those hours, just waiting for any news to come through. That the surgeon was so precise and so careful. They removed the distal portion of her pancreas, about a third of her pancreas, and the nodules that were taken. And they were very, very careful to make sure she was okay, and had to remove her spleen as well.
Wow.
So she had a G tube in just to make sure she recovered from her surgery for a few days, which she really disliked that tube. They took it out, and then just a week after, to give her time to recover from her surgery, she started another 54 weeks of chemotherapy.
Gosh.
And radiation. All of this happened while she was in high school. She was the most resilient child I've seen. She would spend her time studying when she was feeling okay, and she would rest, and she would communicate with her teachers to let them know, I don't feel good. Can I have extra time to complete? She inspired so many in her high school, her teachers, her classmates. And we would have frequent conversations with them to let them know what progress was like. Because, of course, we were mortified. We wanted her to have as normal as a life as possible. And she pulled through.
Wow.
She concluded treatment 2023. She graduated. She did not want to ring the bell, by the way. And she said, I don't want to ring the bell.
You
And
know
we
what? I get that. I
That's
get that.
It's
fine.
okay. Yes, it's fine. It's okay. And she pulled through. She graduated with honors. She received the most beautiful award at the end, and a standing ovation for her classmates. She received the Lucy Foundation Blue Award, which was an amazing award for her resilience, knowing what darkness means and pushing through as a light. And that brought us all to tears. I don't think I cried as much in her graduation as I did. And now, inspired by her own story, she decided to go to nursing school. And I asked her, Alexandra, why nursing and not medical school? And she said, Mommy, my doctors were amazing, but it was my nurses that made the complete difference. And I'm here because of them. Wow. That was amazing. So yeah, she pulled through brilliantly 2 times.
Andrea, it's such a phenomenal story. It sounds so exhausting just even hearing you talk about it, just the ups, the downs, the emotional turmoil of it all. And you've mentioned on multiple occasions accurately how resilient your daughter is. And I genuinely believe that part of her resilience comes from the behaviors and the actions that you and your husband also presented, because you also had to be incredibly resilient in those moments, which I believe strongly contributed to her ability to be positive and to keep pushing forward. And so I hope you and your husband have taken some time to be proud of how you handled it. You know, I think cancer parents, largely speaking, they're so focused on their kids, as they should. But there's got to be this sense of pride that you must feel that, like, we did this. We figured it out. And look at us. Have you had that moment of reflection with him? Like, do you ever step into that headspace? Because, like, as parents, especially as moms, we're so quick to just give credit and gratitude to other people. But have you taken a moment just to give yourself that gratitude?
That's a very good question. I think what we've done is embrace the journey. We've embraced what comes from it and how we've grown through it. It's hard as a couple to go through this. We had our ups and downs because you're exhausted, you're so tired, and sometimes you just don't get time to connect and talk. And we realized that soon after, and we've spent time talking about it. We're very humbled by the journey, very humbled by what each of us have been able to do individually as parents and as a couple, as together as parents. So we've grown from it. But it's curious. It took us a good 6 months to navigate the new normal.
Yeah.
And that's important. When you finish treatment and you're not in the hospital and you're not going on a daily or weekly basis, it's really weird. It's a very just odd space of now what? We're at
Yeah.
home and it's not the hospital and it's not that second home
Yeah.
and all of these things come up as if there's a cough, oh my goodness, what do I do? Do I call the doctor?
Yeah.
Or it's more time together. So we looked for times to having meals together, which we had lost for so long. Go to Andres' soccer tournaments together, right? To go to his games and to his practices. And also the four of us spend time, but also get Alexandra space to embrace her friends and have her last year of high school the more normal way possible,
Yeah.
right? So yes, going back to your question, did we give credit to ourselves? I think we embraced it more than giving credit and just very humbled.
Yeah.
Or
I
what
mean, it's such a great, the way you describe it. It's like you have to relearn how to be normal.
Yes.
And like, it's such a traumatizing experience. It's something so unbelievable that throws you off any sense of normal. And when you're in it twice for effectively 2 years, like, right, collectively,
Yeah.
it takes time to make sense of things. And it sounds like you'll never be the same. I mean, you just can't. You can't once you've been through something like that. The other thing, as we begin to wrap up, I am so inspired always by people that turn pain into purpose. And you were so empowered. You were so inspired by the experience that Alexandra had, that professionally you looked for an outlet to also give back. So you talk about her desire to be a nurse. You also went on your own path to find something that felt aligned with the experience that you had. So please share more about how you landed at First Ascent and the incredible, y'all, this company is incredible. It is saving lives. But tell everyone about this breakthrough that's happening in the cancer world, that now families can find maybe just a little bit more confidence and perhaps relief as a result of. Tell us more.
Of course, Jordan. So I wanted to know, well, what do I do with these 30 plus years that I've spent in the pharmaceutical industry and marketing and sales operations? I kind of became a jack of all trades and know what what I've learned quite well. And I cannot unsee what I've seen and lived through with my daughter's journeys. And I thought, well, what do I do with this? And I met this phenomenal human being. His name is Jim Foote. He's the CEO at First Ascent Biomedical. And we had a conversation. And 30 minutes into that conversation said, you need to come work for me. I said, what? Come again? He was like, you need to come work for me. And I couldn't have made a better decision in my career. So what First Ascent does is they brought together 3 co-founders, Jim, who comes from the cybersecurity world, which is really interesting approach to cancer. Diana Azam, who is a scientist who spent her career learning about cancer, and Noah Berlot, who's focuses on all the AI aspects behind cancer. The 3 of them came together and founded this company called First Ascent Biomedical, and that's who I joined. In a very succinct way, what they do is the following. They take a fresh biopsy from a patient. It can be liquid or solid. They test hundreds of FDA-approved drugs on that sample or those cells. So they grow those cells in the lab. They test hundreds of FDA-approved drugs on them and combinations to see what works. They combine that with a patient's DNA, RNA, so their genomics. And then they add in an AI component. All of that layered in provides a report that ranks all of those drugs and what works, what will work for that specific type of cancer, and definitely what won't work, so that the physician knows exactly what to select for a treatment. Again, this will be the physician's choice, but it makes things very clear. And why is this so important? Because pediatric cancer hasn't had new drugs in many, many years. There's something called standard of care, which has been out there for 40, 50 years. My daughter received drugs from standard of care. She was one of the patients that did respond. that there are many that don't respond and won't respond and won't be with us anymore. So knowing what drugs will work give a new hope and a new approach on how cancer is being treated by selecting the drugs that do work based on that patient's unique biology. So imagine what that does. Less toxicity, knowing exactly what will work and just pinpointing the right treatment for the right patient at the right time. That is what we do. We've seen some amazing stories. We cry happy tears at work, and we're proud to share that. We've seen patients go from hospice to back to school to playing football. Just that
Unbelievable.
alone.
It's so exciting to me. I know exciting is a weird word to use in this context, but I mean, again, truly life-saving research and developments here that is combining what we know to be true with AI and giving families new hope. I think something that we discussed previously is, time is not often on the side of cancer patients. Many people, you're not finding cancer, sadly, in the beginning stages. Oftentimes, it's far more developed than we want to acknowledge. And so every day matters, every week matters. And so to be able to narrow the scope and to understand and not have to do trial by error and put our children through all of these very demanding treatments and drugs without the confidence to know if they're going to work. I mean, I'm so amazed. I'm so blown away. I'm so thrilled for the future in this space. And again, my perspective is not someone that has been in your shoes, but just seeing and talking to so many moms like you, what hope this gives is just tremendous. Andria, can you share with everyone where people can go to find out more information on First Ascent Biomedical?
Of course, if you want more information, please visit our website. It's www.firstascentbiomedical.com. Please come and visit us. Send us a message. There's a section where it says info. You can send us a message and we will reply very quickly. We have some amazing progress coming through, and our lab is now open and CLIA validated in Miami, Florida. So we are taking patients in now.
Amazing. Andria, I knew this was going to be a great conversation. And I hope it felt somewhat cathartic for you to also tell this story in a way, because I would like to think that one day, and I'm sure you have these conversations with Alexandra, it will be really special for her to hear this story from your perspective, and that in some ways this becomes an artifact of a chapter in your life that, while very difficult, is also very inspiring for her and for Andres as well. So thank you so much for joining today. Thank you so much for being honest and vulnerable, and also for the incredible work you guys are doing at First Ascent Biomedical. I'm so excited to share this resource far and wide, and of course look forward to future conversations with you.
Thank you, Jordan. It was a pleasure to be with you.